Thank you, John. I'm Sally Ubnoske from Aries, and I'm going to get started with the first task we faced, really, was to identify the separate project areas. So as you can see, we came up with 7 specific tasks or areas that we needed to address and come up with some kind of a plan for how we would standardize or create some kind of best practice in these different areas. So Joel and I will be giving a very brief overview. There will be more detailed information about about the next steps that will follow on toward the end of our group's presentation. So the first thing we had to think about was the vocabulary. It's always a challenge to make sure that we are all using the same terms to mean the same things. And this can be as simple as who is the corresponding author? What is a review? It can be more technical in terms of things like what is the bits transmittal? What kinds of other technical issues we need to address. And the goal was really to just standardize on some of the semantics that are specific to the peer review submission preprint platform in this ecosystem. So we dealt with the terminology, just the basic vocabulary. We came up with more than 70 terms that we have set up in a spreadsheet at this point in time. But beyond that, we had to deal with some of the more technical issues with regard to the XML. So for example, we are using some of the JATS compliant XML, but even in using JATS, we had to make sure that we're not somehow misusing a tag that has a specific meaning. We don't want to misappropriate that. If it's a JATS-like tag, we need to make sure that we're not making it so that it's no longer compatible with the basic JATS, and we were looking at the JATS compatibility model. So I think, as most people know, the JATS DTD is meant to be extensible, but it can't be extended in a way that then violates any of the other rules with regard to JATS. So that was the vocabulary task. The next step we had to think about was, what is the package? What is actually sent between the systems? We were inspired by the EPUB file format, but we didn't need the spine, so we wanted to, in keeping with the idea of a minimal viable product that can be implemented by a wide range of platforms, submission systems, any other kind of a member or participant in this system, we went with the most simple model, which is really just the zip file. So we don't require subdirectories, but subdirectories can be supported as long as they're outlined in a manifest file. And as you can see, we have some things that are required. And of course, this is really all about how do we assemble the package? How do we put the files in? So we require the transfer file. We require a manifest file. Beyond that, everything else is optional. And the file naming conventions are free form. So whatever makes sense for the source files, we don't require that they be named manuscript file or anything along those lines. Whatever files are included in that zip file must be listed in the manifest. That's our map. That is the key to identify how each file is participating in this package, the transfer. And again, as John mentioned, we're not trying to dictate anything about what is sent, what must be included, other than the basic mapping information and who is sending it to whom. But it's up to each submission system to say whether or not there is a peer review XML file. And there are even use cases where maybe there's not even a manuscript file. In general, we are looking to create a system where enough information has been transmitted so that a record can be created in the receiving system. That's really the main objective here. So the article XML is the one file that is actually JATS compliant, and I will talk about that in a little more detail. The peer review is optional, and then source files are whatever is appropriate for the sending system to include. The next topic really is about tagging. So I'm going to talk really about the submission information. There will be there's other tagging. There's a peer review XML and there's a transfer XML, and Joel will be going into more detail on that. But the actual article XML file we are expecting that it will be JATS compliant. And we are talking about using the green DTD, which is the publishing and archiving format. It's really the foundation for the JATS DTD. It doesn't require as many business rules as far as being valid, so we feel like that's the most flexible kind of a DTD to use, and it's probably what most people are using today anyway. And as one member of our team likes to call it, it's sort of the relaxed fit jeans of the DTD world. So it can be whatever we want it to be and be as clean, as simple to implement as possible. It's more forgiving, so it's easier than to regroup or modify the existing content into an XML file. And the one other part that is really important to keep in mind is the blue DTD, which is the publishing DTD, requires publication dates, which of course conflicts with our basic model, which is at least one of the use cases of transferring a paper before it's been accepted or it might not even have gone through peer review. As far as the green is the base JATS DTD, the blue has decisions about what's important, and we leave that up to the different sending and receiving systems to determine. So don't be afraid. I'm not going to go through line by line with the XML, even though that might be fun. The point here is to show that we do have sample files. We have gone through the exercise of creating an article XML file that handles the information that we need to send to another system so that they can create a record and hopefully keep the author from having to rekey a lot of information into the actual, what is in the submission. At the same time, we do want to have minimal data required. So we're looking at things like the corresponding author and the article. Beyond that, there's still going to be some flexibility. We will have more details at a future date about what actually is in this example. As you can see, I've collapsed a lot of the different complex elements, so we're not going to see the detail. But it is inclusive, it's flexible, and we think that it will be something that really simplifies the process of sending submissions in between various systems and platforms. So I think the next one up is Joel, so I will pass the controller to him. Thank you.